Everybody, it's Nikki, and I'm here to do a quick video. It's not going to be quick, I'm not going to lie. It's going to be as quick as I can possibly get through it. About That's personal opinion, no medical experience for sure, no medical advice either. And it's about control IQ, and I can finally say I'm in it, and I'm in it for real. Like I'm actually doing my logging stuff and everything else. So I'm in Control IQ and I am learning it, and it's pretty exciting and pretty cool to watch. I am not going to say it's perfect because I'd be a fool to, but I am going to say that so far it's looking really good. I'm going to try to make this quick because this is day 4. I think today I'm completing day 4, where I am doing a hands-off, not touching a thing, basically just letting it take the lead. And that is hard for me to do because I am a control freak. Not really, except I like my insulin. And I was on the 670G for a long time, and it was my biggest gripe was that I felt like the 670G just did not want to give me enough insulin. So I get nervous every time I think that Control IQ is, maybe being stingy with the insulin. And it turns out it isn't. It's turning out so far that it's right, and I'm wrong, and I can handle that. So I'm still not gonna say it's perfect because I do still see some, some ups and downs and everything else. However, I'm 4 days in where I'm just letting it do it completely, and I know that 4 days alone with my diabetes, and I'm up and down and everything else. So it's not doing any worse than I'm doing. And it's doing this all by itself without actually having to talk to me, which is kind of cool. Okay, so 2 minutes. All right. Biggest difference, and I am going to do a couple of documents on this because I think it's really important. The biggest difference between Control IQ and auto mode on the 670G has to do with the part of the algorithm that takes into consideration your history. Medtronic won't really tell you what history they're taking into consideration, but they will say that it could be anything from the last 48 hours to the last 6 days to the last 2 weeks. Some people are convinced that, 6 months auto mode is watching you, and it takes auto mode 6 months to figure you out. I don't believe any of those things. I do think that probably the 6 days to 2 weeks, somewhere in there, is probably a very fair range. And I do think that that's what it was doing. And for me, that was a big problem. And that's because my life isn't routine enough that you can study what I've done 4 days in a row and know I'm going to do it again on the 5th day. I'm lucky to do the same thing 2 days in a row. But I might exercise at 9 o'clock a.m. 3 days in a row, and then on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th day, do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're banking on me exercising again at 9 a.m., there's going to be a problem. And I saw on a regular basis that auto mode would start off pretty strong, over the first week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then it would just kind of peter out. And I think it had to do with that history. And exercise really seemed to throw the whole thing off almost every single time. So Control IQ, according to Tandem, and according to all of their material, does not take your history into account at all. The only thing that they are looking at is your current sensor value, your current blood sugar, and what it's predicted to be in 30 minutes. And that's it. Yes, they do need you to, before you even go into Control IQ, you do have to put in your total body weight. And not your total, as opposed to half your body weight, your body weight and your total daily dose. And then it kind of takes that over from there. So it needs that information to get going, but then supposedly it starts to use your total daily dose from every day rather than ever using that information again. So it uses that, but what it's using to decide your insulin delivery right now is what your current blood sugar is and what it's predicted to be in 30 minutes. I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool not to worry that I'm doing something a little different today and I can't communicate that to my pump. You don't have to communicate it. Every day I get up with Control IQ, it's a fresh day. So that's huge. No mystery and no history. Took me like 6 months to come up with that, but okay. Anyway, so that's a big one. Okay, the default, and I think it's called your personal profile. I have it written down somewhere, but my life has gotten turned upside down. Control IQ also defaults at your regular predetermined manual mode rate when your blood sugar is normal and stable. So I'm on the difference number 2. This is huge, or at least I think it's going to be huge, and I think it's why I like the numbers I see. Instead of kind of coasting along at, let's say, a 90 or a 95 or a 100 or whatever, and getting a reduced rate, which is what happened to me often with the 670G, instead of kind of accumulating a lowered basal because I was normal and stable and everything else, Control IQ is defaulting me back to my regular basal rate. I think that's going to be huge, because I think that those sometimes long pockets of the day where I am stable, I am, things are good, but I don't need 75% of my insulin. I still need 100%. I think those caught up to me on the 670G. And I think that Control IQ, with defaulting to my regular rate, if it's not needing to adjust my insulin, I think that's really in my favor. So again, I don't know how to watch all these things specifically, but I'm logging all my numbers, and what I know is that it seems to be tackling a rise better than what auto mode could do, and part of me thinks it's because those rises aren't as profound because they haven't been going on for hours and hours and hours, where I just have been receiving this reduced rate. I'm 7 minutes in, and I have so much to say about Control IQ and already what the differences seem to be from auto mode. And I'm not knocking auto mode. I don't want to knock auto mode. I do understand it was the first of its kind. I've said for a very long time that I wasn't mad at auto mode. I was mad at the response. And that was, when Medtronic heard about some of these problems, them not really helping people with it, but just saying, it's not really a problem. So it was frustrating to me. And it's in comparing it to a newer algorithm, it was the first of its kind. And so that, so they had a tough job. And there was stuff about auto mode that was very good. But I'm talking about Control IQ in this one. Okay, I got sidetracked there for a second. Other differences. I know there was a couple of, there's also a Control IQ bolus that can occur once an hour, as long as there are no other boluses that have just occurred. So you can't do a food bolus or a correction bolus and then receive a Control IQ bolus. It has to have been an hour from your last bolus, and then you have to demonstrate a need for the bolus. I like the Control IQ boluses. I think they're great. I think that they are a little tricky during the day when I'm getting ready to start exercising and I'm trying to get that no IOB. So sometimes I look back and I go, I have a unit and a half on where I thought I didn't have anything. So that kind of is a little bit of a blower. But there's a way to handle that, or there's going to be. For the most part, I like those boluses. I think they're helpful. I also think they're why Control IQ is able to handle my rises better. Few other kind of smaller differences. 670G, there is no temp basal. There's a temp target, and that changes your target from 120 to 150. And in Control IQ, there's also no temp basal, but there's 2 settings. There's exercise and sleep. And so far, those are pretty nifty little settings. I'm still playing around with how to use them because I don't necessarily think I'm going to use them during exercise and sleep. But I think they're going to be really good little settings. Another difference, auto mode won't allow corrections until you've gotten above 150. Your normal target is 120. Control IQ, as I said, will add corrections anytime it's necessary. Again, 1 hour and no, it has to have been an hour since the one previously. Okay, and that was that. All right, auto mode, this one's huge. There's no overriding any bolus, ever. Like, you cannot override whatever auto mode wants to give you for the bolus. You have to accept it. if you want more insulin, you have to be dishonest with your pump. You have to trick it into giving you more insulin. And again, your algorithm is watching all this, so you can't explain why you're doing any of these things. So you can't really control the end result over the next couple of days or whatever. If you want extra carbs, if you want extra insulin, you'd have to do something like fake carbs or do a fill cannula trick, or do manual injections. In Control IQ, you can adjust your boluses pretty much any way you like. There are a few times where you cannot do it, and those include when your blood sugar is like below a 50 maybe. I think if you're below 50, you can't adjust your bolus upward. It just won't let you. Or if you're trying to put in for a food bolus and you already have a lot of IOB, there's times where it'll just show you 0 and there are no more buttons to push. It just won't let you move forward with it. So you basically have to back out of the thing, and you can't do that bolus. You can always trick it if that's what you'd like to do, but there really is no reason. And I will say, over the last 4 days of keeping my hands off, I'm starting to think that I should kind of shut up and follow its lead a little bit, because it seems to have some pretty good ideas as far as what I'm going to need. So I'm learning how to override a little less with it. Auto mode learns, Control IQ doesn't learn. There is no intelligent analysis, interpretation, whatever going on in Control IQ. It's looking at your current blood sugar, and it's looking at where you're predicted to be in 30 minutes. It's not going to remember or hold against you what you did last weekend. Auto mode, there's all this learning. So that's a big difference. Auto mode, there's safe basal. Control IQ, there is no safe mode. Either it's active or it's not active. That's it. There is no, and I like that, because safe basal was not my favorite thing at all. There's also no calibrating on Control IQ. I mean, I think that from time to time it can ask, and if you've used no code with the sensor, then of course it'll ask. But in general, there's just no calibrating. Very little, I'll say that, very little. And one good thing for auto mode is auto mode has low threshold suspend option when you're not in auto. If you turn off Control IQ, then you're just back to, there are no suspends. I do think Tandem is setting up, maybe preparing to put basal IQ on the pump as well, so that users can have that choice like we did with auto mode and manual mode. There's more, but I'm 13 minutes in, and that was a good start. So I'll be back to talk more about Control IQ, because we're all home, and I hope you're also home, and I hope you're safe, happy, healthy, and sane. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.